And really what I'm going to focus on is talking about how to make the migration from GP to BC as simple as possible when it comes to sales and use tax. So just a little introduction about myself. My name is John Chazar. I am the Senior Strategic Alliance Manager at Avalara. I've been with Avalara for nearly 5 years and been exclusively working within the Microsoft ecosystem. I actually started out as a sales executive working directly with the Stoneridge partnership and have since made this move to really manage the relationship between Avalara and Stoneridge. So if you are a new customer that's coming over to Avalara, you will see me on your first call and most likely on your last call as well. Really, what my job here to do is facilitate the projects and the implementation paths and make sure they align with Stoneridge's implementation team as well on these ERP migrations. I'm based in Colorado Springs, but I do like to make it up to Minneapolis whenever I can to visit the Stoneridge crew. So a little bit about Avalara, if you aren't familiar with us. We started in 2004, and really from the start, Microsoft was the first ERP system that we ever integrated with or built a connector for. So we've really been, again, in the Microsoft ecosystem since our birth in 2004. Since then, we have grown from just a North America sales and use tax solution to a global solution. Our CEO's goal is to have us be a part of every single transaction that happens in the world. And as you can imagine, sales and use tax just gets more and more complicated once you leave the United States, obviously, and start looking into some of these ELR live reporting type companies. This slide here we like to refer to as our marketecture slide. I could spend probably my entire 15 minutes talking solely about our different products and solutions. But what I like to highlight here is that most people think of Avalara as just sales tax calculation and maybe returns filing. But we've acquired a number of companies and have also built some robust solutions to really handle the end-to-end compliance from the purchases side of your organization, handling use tax calculation, vendor certificate management, and then obviously on the sales side with the sales tax calculation piece, exemption certificates from the customer side, as well as that e-invoicing live reporting needs as well. Some of our supporting products underneath there that I always like to call out is property tax. We do have the ability to help calculate and file property tax allocations, as well as 1099 and W-9 collection, verification, and distribution in the year. So real quick, I know everyone loves talking about sales and use tax. It's always the hot button topic that, again, at the end of the day here, everyone wants to be really diving into. But what I really like to highlight here is that the compliance and the complexity around sales and use tax is constantly changing and growing, right? Since 2019 with the Wayfair decision that really blew up economic nexus and changed the whole landscape when it comes to taxability and, again, nexus tracking, we just continually to see these things change every couple of years. So from managing growth, whether it's through mergers and acquisitions, the digitalization of accounting or the live reporting, which is something that, again, if anyone's dealing with sales in Mexico or in the EU or in South America, live reporting is something that is really changing the entire internal processes around how sales and use tax is being calculated and then remitted to the government entities themselves. Changing in regulations, as I mentioned, too, with that e-invoice live reporting, as well as just, again, complexity around specific industries, right? Alcohol, big one, obviously, firearms, ammunition, telecom, and fuel as well. So I just want to get into, again, now why we're really here, right? We're talking about GP to Business Central migrations, and we polled a number of our customers who have gone through this migration process and got some best practices from them and some things to avoid that either slowed down their implementation or might have prolonged the initial go live of the process itself. So really what we have heard from our customers that are migrating is our specific migration tool helps simplify a lot of this data configuration. So again, if you're a current Avalara customer that's using Avatax in GP, we do have these migration tools that are able to take your product and service taxability rules, as well as obviously the rates, transfer all of that data into BC without losing it, and obviously keeps the data secured and protected as you guys are migrating to the new ERP system. This also helps kind of reduce the overall effort that you have to do, right? Again, BC has native sales tax functionality, right? It has the ability for you to upload your tax tables and your rates, put in your status of the customer, whether exempt or taxable, and then again, obviously the compatibility with the services taxability itself. Now, what we're able to do with that essentially is, again, streamline that entire process when that comes over to us throughout this migration process. Now, if you're a brand new customer that say hasn't been utilizing AvaTax on GP and are just looking at that now in the BC environment, we do have different implementation paths that will help you lift that data essentially. So if we're talking about uploading a mass of exemption documents, we actually have an internal team that will verify those certificates for you, upload them for you solely in the system. So that way it takes all of that work off of your plate, and your internal resources be allocated to the other functions of the ERP implementation process itself. Some specific tips and tricks that we've heard this directly from our end user customers, specifically things to watch out for, assuming that these tax rules will migrate as is, right? Obviously, different functionality between the two systems can cause hiccups, can cause data migration issues. Rebuilding exemption certificates from scratch. As I mentioned before, if you're dealing with a lot of exempt customers, this can be a very, very time-consuming process, loading not just the certificates in the system, but then also making sure that all of those customer cards are marked correctly, whether they're exempt or taxable as an end user customer. Delaying the tax system integration until the cutover. This is something that we have heard a lot from customers where they're ready to go live and they're realizing we're going to start processing sales tax data with maybe incomplete taxability rules or rates. So aligning that system prior to the go live, from what we've seen and what we've heard from our Stone Ridge counterparts as well, it just creates a much smoother process in that go live, right? Customers are able to really hit the ground running with the confidence that they are calculating and capturing tax in real time on every invoice as it's going out the door. So again, some other recommendations then on what these customers told us, hey, we would say if we're talking to other peers in our space, to do this during these migration periods. Specifically, I wanted to highlight the define your taxable product SKUs. That does help expedite data migration very significantly. Obviously, if you're dealing with a product catalog that has thousands of different products or services, again, that could be a big holdup when it comes to the implementation and migration process. And then use your native integrations where possible. So again, if you're utilizing Avalara solutions on GP, it's going to work almost exactly the same. You're actually going to get more functionality within the Business Central environment than you had in GP, but essentially it's going to be the same processes. Now, if you're new to Avalara, haven't been using us on GP, you are able to, depending on the timeline of the implementation and what that looks like, you might be able to start utilizing some of our services, such as the exemption certificate management solution, prior to even going live to processing transactions, right? So we're able to really time up when you need to use our products to match the implementation go live, right, from Stone Ridge's side. Perfect. So what kind of changes in the migration pattern, and then what needs to be rebuilt? So again, goods and service mapping is significantly simpler. It allows for that greater flexibility and diversity within Business Central. We do have some AI agents that we utilize in our implementation process, specifically around the mapping. It will actually give you suggestions based on, again, looking at what your products and services are, but then also based on some other previous decisions that you've made, right? Marking a specific service might be taxable or overriding that. Our AI agent will pick up on that and, again, help kind of streamline this whole implementation process for you. So again, while GP supports line level transactions, there are certain nuances to achieving that similar functionality in Business Central. Not very complicated, but it is just something to kind of keep in mind when you're making that transition. So here's how we kind of help, again, to bringing this all together, helping migrate the data specifically from GP 2015, that SQL server of 2012 or later, to D365 Business Central, right? This tool is able to automate the data migration setup with a step-by-step guide, and you have your Azure data lake as well to really migrate that data back and forth between the two ERP systems. Let's see here then. Oh yeah, charts and accounting. and for master records. So that chart of accounts for master records is going to be integral when formatting the data and making sure everything's flowing in correctly. Customer master records as well as vendor master records, vitally important as well, right? We want to make sure that we're capturing the correct data initially when the program is set up. So again, if you're telling us that this customer is exempt, but then we don't have a valid exemption certificate uploaded into the system, we're going to flag that and make sure that's you go back and double check that on the customer card itself. Now, with Business Central and 365, some of the added functionality that you get that was not included in GP, I just want to highlight really quick. So first and foremost, on our exemption certificate management tool, on a customer card in BC, you're able to pull in that current valid certificate for that customer. You're able to request a new certificate if it's set to expire. Not just request one certificate, but say if you have a customer that has 5 different ship tos in 5 different states, you could request all 5 state exemptions just in one click directly in BC. So you don't have to leave your day-to-day functionality in Business Central itself to kind of access those certificates and request those certificates. Backing up a little bit again with e-invoicing and live reporting. So again, if you are experiencing transactions in the EU or in Mexico and you're dealing with this e-invoicing and live reporting where essentially the government is getting their tax revenue at the point of transaction instead of doing a remittance right at the end of the month, quarter, whatever that frequency may be. So we have pre-built solutions for that already, ready to go, I should take a step back. Depends on obviously what countries you're in, but we do have those connectors ready to go to turn on that e-invoicing or live reporting functionality. If you need help with VAT and GST calculation, e-harmonized code generation to get things through customs a lot faster, we have the functionality within Business Central as well, along with a host of cross-border functionality in Canada and the rest of North and South America. So what does success look like? Again, it's faster go lives, being tax ready when you guys are go live, when you are ready to go live and start processing invoices. It's reducing all those manual errors. Again, by utilizing AvaTax to calculate everything in real time, not rely on postal zip codes, rely on true latitude and longitude, as well as utilizing our certificate management solution to make sure you are in compliance with those exemption certificate documents. Again, it's going to reduce all of those manual errors, as well as lower that audit risk, and obviously same time across finance and IT as a whole.